Dun, dun, dun. Before the dark times. Before the dark times, maybe an argument could be made that Russia had somewhat of an economy. I would still say it's smaller than the Netherlands. People say, well, 2.1 trillion. It's not 2.1 trillion. It's probably like 0.8 trillion or something in reality. That's a debatable point. But what isn't debatable is the actual Russian people and how they spend their money. I'm going to show you three charts of actual data, not macroeconomic data, of what Russians spend their money on every single day, what Russians can buy, and generally a conversation about a decline in the fall of standard of living. Chart number one, an adult in Russia. If you're an adult, you're living there, you're working hard, at the peak of your earnings, okay, at your prime, you should be moving mountains. You should be full of and vinegar. Their salary, $790 a month. Okay? That doesn't sound good to me. Russians are poor. The cost of living, excluding rent, look at the chart, is $621. One bedroom apartment, you have this like old bed, it's really lumpy, it's a single bed, you're cold at night. It's outside some city, in a block of flats looking into a dumpster, okay? And, they have huge light variations there. You probably don't have blackout shades. $370 a month. Utilities, basic utilities. It's cold in your place. It's freezing half the year. In the summer, you definitely don't have AC. That's $121. Phone and internet, for what it's worth, I hear the internet's not working really, is $15. A bus pass, it's one of these stinky diesel buses riding for, 57 minutes into your job from your one-bedroom flat, dystopian flat. That's $29. So if you're living this Spartan dystopian life in Russia, you have expenses of $1,157. That's according to Numbeo, and that's actual user input. And actually, I think the Russians bots have spammed it a little bit, and it's probably a little bit inflated in terms of the salary and deflated the expenses. But that's what it shows you. I ran aggregate calculations on my own. I took the numbers, calculated them, and made this table. So look at it. You have a net of $367 every month. How are you going to pay that? And when I say it's Spartan dystopian, that's nothing. Okay, that's like this wobbly, crumply bed. Your back doesn't feel great. Okay, and it's cold. And there's nothing to look forward to in life, just bleak skies, maybe pollution from some industrial something in Russia. And I'm sorry to paint it that way, but that's the way it is today in Russia. No romanticism. These are confirmed by Numbeo data and confirmed by people I chat with in Russia, from Russia, and they're telling it to me straight, that their life is basically hopeless economically. Now let's look at what Russians can't buy. They can't buy a car. They definitely can't buy like even a Toyota Corolla or some beat up old car. That's actually a pretty good car. It would be 5 years salary before expenses. There is no way they can buy a car. If they have a car, they're lucky. Somehow they have one, they're lucky. But then, gas is expensive now there, petrol. So you're riding this stinky bus and don't believe it. Most people do ride stinky buses and commute. 2, the apartment, the price per meter is through the roof. And they can't afford that anymore. If you don't have one of these old communist flats from the 1970s, and I've seen them where in the roof, I was probing them, they actually had straw sticks, thatch, in the roof, and they just plastered over it. Okay, you have leaks, no chance for an apartment, full of life and energy and creativity as a young Russian. You're not going to buy that. You're hoping maybe somebody will give you one vacation. They don't take, vacations anymore. Or if you're maybe professional or something, maybe you can go to Cyprus or Turkey if that's what you want to do. But they're not rocking the world. Most Russians, I'm talking the ordinary Russians, not like Instagrammers flexing. And a lot of people flex in Russia. You're not going to have anything great. Okay, streaming, it's out. We know that whole story. You're not going to be watching beautiful romantic stories and laughing in Christmas stories. Uh, School add-ons, books, trips, tutors. Okay. Your kids, you get the basic indoctrination at the public schools. You don't get all the fluffies that we do in the West, Minecraft Academy and going on school trips to see all these great things. Oh, I'm reporting from the Bavarian Alps, by the way, in the winter. It's kind of cold here. Okay, vitamins. I know it seems like, trivial, but, most people either take drugs or vitamins. And a lot of people are into natural things. They don't have it. They're eating, ramen noodles and potatoes and saying how great it is. And they probably are accruing long-term vitamin deficiencies. They're substituting potato water, in quotes. You know what potato water is for vitamins. Okay, shoes, goods, clothes. The shoes have holes in it. Their treads are down. The stuff that you see that you're throwing into like a barrel in the West, that's good shoes for Russians. I am not joking, okay? You think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I've been there, okay? I'm living in Eastern Europe. Today, for a while, I've been traveling around Europe. I'm in Germany, Bavaria, for various reasons. But I know what it's like here, okay? They don't have adequate shoes and clothing. And the people there, they have these old jackets, and young and old are freezing. Okay, so 67% spend over 50% of their budget on food. Okay, that's huge. That means all they're about is trying to survive. So let's go into the fallen standard of living. 63% of the Russians, in a recent survey by Lenda, said their primary concern economically is prices are through the roof. They're going up. If there's no inflation in Russia, if there's no, nothing to talk about Federal Reserve of Russia, then how come 63% say that's their primary concern in life? Over 50% of their budget, 67% of the people are spent on food. That doesn't sound good. And the Russians of this generation, they're not growing microgreens in gardens. I mean, I have a potato field. I'm growing that. Things growing up all around the roof, ceiling, hanging from things. I'm growing all kinds of things in my apartment. Microgreens. I don't think many Russians are doing that. I don't even see them on YouTubers. They're all just saying, look, I can get a frozen, vegetable or something. 9%, that's almost 10%, that have no money for food. Okay, for me, that's starvation. And 31% struggle to afford food. Okay, they've said it, they've claimed it, that they can't basically afford the basics. So in communist times, you used to see these men that were huge and big and kind of fat, Vasily Alexia type, and the women used to like that. And the women too, that was a sign of opulence, even in like the old days, opulence, somebody who's kind of chubby. In Russia, that's going out of style because it's not that the calories are not adequate, the nutrients, the micronutrients, the macronutrients, vitamin D, it's basically the land of depression. So in this short video, I just updated you on the budget in Russia, how Russia is really poor at a microeconomic level. 2, just some basic things Russians can't buy. I'm not even talking about, like extravagant things. Of course, car and apartment is out, but I'm talking about like cool books and Legos for their kids and just things that will stimulate their brain during this like critical time, or shoes without holes in it, socks without holes in it. And again, the Russians, they've lost those skills to sew clothes. I mean, I can sew clothes. I can definitely grow my own food and herbs. They don't have things like vitamins, things. They have these cheap cosmetic-y things and bright labels that you smear on. A lot of it is like cosmetic alcohol and perfume. It doesn't do jack, right? And the vitamins that they have are like the lowest quality, poor quality. So the people are declining in health with the standard of living. And as economists, I know that there's some correlation between adequate, a minimal amount of money and longevity plus health and etc. So if you want to live and romanticize about dystopian Spartan existence, I wouldn't choose Russia, because there's a third layer. There's no, I am not a materialistic person, even though I'm a PhD economist, because I have hope in God and life and humanity. But if you take poverty and couple it with the lack of hope and faith and belief in a better future for our humanity, that's pretty much a dark existence. So that's why Ukraine will win and Russia will lose. Because on a day-to-day level, a day in the life of Russia, they're not cutting it, and it's not getting better. My name is Mark Biernat. I'm a monetary economist. Have a beautiful day. Thank you very much.